Okay, hopefully this is actually recording here. Breast field bug report number 36. Alright. What the real issue is, Dave and Bill, DaveChampionsShow.us, your uncorked program, January 6th. Okay, I'm responding to that. I want to ask you guys something. You know, I totally agree with you on the liberty issue. All right. But, you know, the issue for the heterosexual homophobes is not that we're afraid for our own personal sexuality. We're afraid for our children's sexuality. We all want to have grandchildren someday. We heterosexuals. And you know what? Apparently, so do homosexual couples. And that's why they want to sort of artificially contrive a marriage. A marriage where they can adopt children. Okay. All right. They can't, you know, a lot of these guys, they go and get fake vaginas. They're fake. They can't actually have children. They can pretend to be a woman, and the other guy, the other homosexual, can pretend to be a man. And they want to pretend to have a child. And the only way they can do that is by adopting. But the CPS agencies, and this is the one issue where I am on the CPS side, is that they don't want to let these homosexual couples adopt. So what do the homosexual couples want to do? They want to make homosexual marriage legitimate. This is not about the tax advantages of being a married couple. That's an utter lie. Okay, if you guys want to cohabitate, you know, in your own home, the two of you, fine by me. I don't care. That's not the issue. The issue is you're going to try to, you know, you're going to try to teach our young children in public schools that heterosexuality is an acceptable alternative lifestyle, and that, this marriage, homosexual marriage with adopted children is just as legitimate as an actual heterosexual marriage where the children are produced by heterosexual means. All children are produced by heterosexual means. That's the whole purpose of sex, guys. Okay, yeah, it's fun too, but the purpose of sex is to have the children and to raise them properly. Okay, what is this nonsense? You know, you want to make homosexual marriage legitimate with an adopted child. You want to make that a legitimate, legally recognized arrangement with the adopted children, okay? If you guys want to do your thing behind closed doors by yourselves, fine. But the government and this society do not have to put a child in that relationship. Okay? That's what ultimately this homosexual marriage is all about. That's what they're after. They want to put a child in that perverted relationship. That's ultimately the issue. Okay? So what's this nonsense about, you're afraid for your own sexuality? No. I'm afraid for my family and my family's future. Okay? All right? Homosexuality does not produce children. Okay? my family's future is dependent on, and guys know that the founding fathers talked a lot about posterity. What do you think posterity is? That's your future generations. You don't have future generations through homosexual sex. It doesn't happen. Look at what's going on down in Mexico. Okay? They have a culture, the machismo, culture. What is it? Oh, I can't think of the word right now. I think it's machismo. But anyway, and the guys down there, they knock up girls left and right. And their culture is expanding. Okay? Expanding. And you know what? That's the problem with the Mormons back in the 19th century. It's not that polygamy is wrong. It's not. The real issue that people had with the Mormons is that they were expanding quite rapidly because of polygamy. Okay? A guy, just because he has a wife and she's had a couple of children, and by the time she's 45 or 50, she can't have kids anymore. But the guy can. Okay? And I don't fault the Mexican guys for wanting to have more children. All right? And there's 24 examples in the Bible where we had, a man with multiple wives. And there's nothing wrong with that according to the Scripture. Now, you can get a woman pregnant outside of marriage. And that is wrong. But the marriage is defined as a contract between men. One man wants to marry another man's daughter. There's a contract. You get permission from the father, not from the state. Okay? You get permission from the state. That's not a legitimate marriage. All right? That's the problem. Everybody thinks that's a legitimate marriage. It's not according to Scripture anyway. It's actually a contract between men. All right? I know you women don't like that idea because then you start thinking, oh, that's, you're treating women like property. And I'm like, well, hey, Laban and Jacob had a deal. He would work for Laban for 7 years, and he would get a wife out of it, Laban's daughter. And what was not legitimate about that is what Laban did. He gave Jacob Leah instead of Rachel, and the agreement was for Rachel. And actually, Jacob ended up marrying sisters, and because of Laban, all right? So this is really Laban's fault, not Jacob's. But there is a scripture, I do believe, that says that you can't marry sisters. Okay? But that particular scripture would be pointless if polygamy wasn't allowed. I'm like, polygamy is legal. It is, according to Scripture, it's lawful. Otherwise, why do you have this scripture that says you can't marry sisters? That's an exception to the polygamy statute in Scripture. I mean, if you can only marry one woman, then what's this about marrying sisters simultaneously? You're sounding like, you marry one sister and divorce her and then marry another one. No. You can't marry sisters. All right. That's what it's really about. polygamy is allowed. And the point is, what people are really ultimately afraid of is that this one culture is expanding. And we need to worry about the Mexicans expanding, because they're flowing across our border and they're taking over the Southwest. And I don't blame them for doing that. What I have a problem with is our government doesn't have the balls to go down there and put a couple of fences up there the entire stretch of the border. And they don't want to do that because there's too much money in the drugs that are flowing across the border. Anyway, back to the homosexual situation. That's one thing that we're all afraid of, is this expanding, allowing the homosexual culture to expand, this culture where we have homosexual married couples with adopted children. Okay? Because the CPS is going to have a hard time saying, well, we only want to give this child to a married couple, because that's the best situation. Oh, but we are married now. We weren't married before, but now we are. Legally, not scripturally. Okay. And this is ultimately the issue. Do we want homosexual couples with adopted children? Okay. Is that what we want? Isn't in this society? Because your argument supports the whole idea of marriage, of legitimizing this homosexual relationship as if it were marriage. Guys, transsexuals actually go and get fake vaginas, but now, so they can pretend to be a wife, even though they're not, and they can't actually have children. Of course, don't need to explain that. They can't have children. The only way they can do it is by adopting a child that was conceived by heterosexual means. Okay? And I want to have grandchildren, and I don't want my son believing in this nonsense that, a homosexual arrangement is legitimate as a marriage, because it's not. And I don't want him exposed to that crap at an impressionable age. Okay? He's going to be a teenager soon. He's going to get those hormones. Once those hormones kick in, he's not going to be thinking straight. Okay? He's not. He's not. I mean, it doesn't matter. Once those hormones kick in, he's really going to have a hard time. I've been there myself. Okay? Once those hormones kick in, it's like you become irrational. And for a long period of time, it takes the time for a parent to get them back into a rational thinking mode and get those hormones under control. And I don't want anybody teaching them this nonsense. Okay, like evolution is nonsense. I know it's a lie. It's not scientific. Okay, you can't reproduce it in a lab. They've already promoting that nonsense in the public schools. I don't want them promoting this nonsense that homosexual couples can have children, because they don't. They actually have to, come up with an artificially contrived situation and then call that marriage with children. It's not natural, and it's going to tear down the society. All right. If that's what you want, Dave and Bill, go for it. But that's where all this is leading. Okay, and I'm going to tear down your arguments. That's it. Rest of Bug Report number 36.